I didn't really play in the Dean. I've more explored the wee Dean from primary school age, possibly about 1943-ish, but it might have been later. I mean, the thing is that there's so many other things around the village that one could do. Down by the river, for instance, etc. I lived in Cherry Cottage. It's the house next door to the schoolmaster's house. Easy access for school, because I used to leave going into school, because the primary school was at the top of the hill there. I used to leave it till the last couple of minutes, and I could tear out the door, straight up the garden, climb over the gate at the top into the playground, and I'd be on time. What I've said is probably played with mixed primary school friends, but can't remember the details. But I also had a friend at the primary school who was an evacuee from Wigan. Him and his sister came to live at Rosebank. Anyway, I used to play with him, and I used to play with his train set up in the attic of Rosebank. So it's quite possible that we went into the Dean. Well, as I said, I well into nature, and I preferred nosing about, trying to find birds' nest, looking at I didn't play games up there, and just looking for nests and trying to look for extra flowers or whatever, because of course there was lots of Doronicums, and there still is. That's what you get as you come into the wee Dean on the left. They usually cover, that's those lovely yellow flowers, or bluebells, but that was away up at Todlaw. And the snowdrops up at Todlaw, primroses galore, raspberries, red campions, etc. At one stage, I do remember when I was up there with Ian Carter, we used to find a plant that's a bit like a cow parsley, but very much smaller, that one could dig down and hoik out a, shall we call it, a nut, because it was nice to eat. Because I was forever up there looking for hazelnuts at this time of year, especially in the wee Dean. So there used to be trees, especially down the bottom near your other brain, where we could go and shake the bush like mad, and down the nuts would fall. And I never did explore the buildings there. I was more intent on leaving things be, and didn't even carve anything in any trees. I wasn't into doing that sort of thing. Immediately above the tea house, up on the top, on the right hand side. So I would say that anywhere in and around there was wonderful. And it was mainly looking for birds' nests, particularly pheasants. It was easier to find. And of course the long-tailed tit. But I can't remember anything specific otherwise than that. I mean, I don't remember ever seeing any badgers. Well, the trees were beautiful. There were some really big ones. There was this, after going over the first bridge into the Big Dean, you walked down towards the top of the high bank above the burn, and on the corner there, I would have called it a small conifer wood, which was covered with bluebells. And then, of course, you could walk along that bit, and then halfway between there and the next bridge, which is down in the bottom, which is where all the bends in the river are, there must have been something go wrong with the path, because it's quite dicey trying to get down this bit, as if there'd been almost like a landslide. And I was bothered about how they managed to do the folk from Denholm walking all the way up to Cavers Church, because it wasn't wider than enough for a single person. The bridges were only for single people, and it was only from the tea house that the path was wide enough to take a carriage or whatever from Hawick. Because equally, when people were walking from Denholm to Cavers Church, I could see where they get to as far as the what do you call the road. From then onwards, where did they go once they got off the end of the Dean path? Where did the path go from there to Cavers Church? Yes, here is Dean Head, near East Middles, and funnily enough, I eventually met people up at Cavers, where the church is, and where the cross was, I'm not sure it's still there now, a house on the corner of the crossroads there, because there's the church on one corner and Cavers house further down on the left. I found a carved stone which could be, and probably was, part of a guardrobe, and that was on the opposite corner to the church itself. I've never been up since. I remember the trees, especially one by the cottage. It was on the right hand side, looking at it from the Hawick side, and it's still there as far as I'm aware. Huge conifer. And I mean the path that goes round here went past it and round to the far side, and then you got on to the first bridge from there, or the last bridge coming up from Denholm. And it was, I just admired the tree. I must admit there were some real beauties, but I even have a faint recollection of them doing some timber work on the far side of the Dean, opposite that first bit. When, I have no idea, but it would have been between that sort of 45, 55 sort of time. 2 or 3 years ago, when I was just about still able to, I couldn't do it now. So we started off up at the hill head, went into the big Dean there, and went straight down the boundary, I suppose, at that time. And I found the ruins of the first bridge. And if I had a plan to show you, I could show you where it is now. But because if you go from the Deals tree through the wee gate, where the where Denholm water used to come from is now the electricity substation. So from there, opposite is it called Little Rollwood? Well, outside their gate is the little gate, and you can walk in through that and all the way along their boundary, and you should come to the fence of the big Dean where the first bridge was. No, the deal trees by the little gate, one ruinous relic, and the new paths that you've made excellent. Because prior to that, I thought they were, I would have said, dangerous, coming from the big Dean into the little Dean. And they certainly needed some sort of new pathways. So on this 6th of June visit. I didn't go all the way up to the top, but prior to any time like that, once went over this big bridge you're talking about that's a bit bigger than's necessary. I went with my son and his partner, and then we came back down through the Big Dean on the top side, and going from there into the Little Dean, that was not easy, not at all, because the paths were dicey. I don't know what you've done now, but that was not good. Other entrance to the Little Dean is just up past the, I think I told you about the, I don't know whether it's a substation, and you could go in there and down the slope to what once was the rifle range. Sandy says there was a hut for the rifle range down the bottom of that. So that's in the first part of the Little Dean, so that they would be shooting at the big bank, which is just down from the lay-by. A pastime for people who wanted to shoot. My one wish for the Dean would be to have the Big Dean required for use of the whole village, and have the paths and bridges reinstated.
I would be there around 5-year-old, but I would be there with my sister. She would be in a pushchair. I would only just be walking, although after that I was in the hospital for a year. So I didn't get to go back probably up into the Dean and play until I was probably 9 or 10-year-old after that. We stayed in Ashland, about 100 yards from here, directly across. As a 10-year-old I wouldn't be there on my own. I would be there with the family, and mostly I remember at that sort of time being there as picnics with the family and other families. The kids got to play in the burn and round about, and the glade that is now covered in trees just across the bridge was a grassy area, and I never ever remember it being knee-high in grass. It was always well maintained, but I don't know how it was well maintained as grass, because if grass gets to grow, it's knee-high. It was always easy to run about in. There was no trees for you to be messing about on there, and it was fine. Well, I was there with my brothers and sisters, so yeah, we were all playing together. Some of the younger ones just got to be held at the side of the water. The older ones got to mess about in the river. And I was never a swimmer, so I never swam in the thing at all. I just waded about in it, up to my knees more than likely, but that would be it. Though we tried always to dam the burn, that was always one of the things. And throw sticks in and watch them bobbing down the burn. And later on, probably later, up to 14, 15, go up into there probably on my own or with other guys. But I'm struggling to remember who actually went with me up into the Dean at that time. And we would go guddling trout, see what there was, fish-wise. As to flowers and all the rest of it, that just passed me right by. No interest. And as for wildlife, no, never ever took any notice of it. But like I say, I still can't think of being sheep or cattle in amongst that glade to keep the grass down. But it was always very short grass. The trees would pass me by. Although my brother says that there was a rope swing across the burn, but I never ever remember a rope swing. So some of the younger ones than me had got to put up and swung on it, but that was never, nothing that I ever remember. The spruce trees have been away has made a big difference. How many of the rest of the trees would come away or whatever is time will tell. And I have great difficulty in remembering who owned the Dean when I was that age. There was McTaggart's in Dean Burn house, the big house, and then Denby Kirkpatrick and the family were in there. But that's all. He never felt as if he needed to get permission or otherwise for to go down into it. It was always easy access. Pathways are wider, but then being young, probably there wouldn't be the number of people walking or dog walkers that there is now. And they're making a difference. And they need to be catered for. But equally, everybody else has the chance to walk in it as well. And it's a lot lighter than I remember it. I was always outside, never in the house. School holidays were outdoors and away, always. If I had one wish for the Dean, it would be easy access for everybody and for them to be able to enjoy it.
I can't remember no playing in the Dean. Again, I can't remember I was there. My youngest memories come from the Dean because I had older brothers again, and they would take me there and initially, and because we used the Dean a lot. I mean, we got meals out the Dean. We got fish. Again, in those days there were decent fish. Again, and we were up the Dean a lot. And we had many a dinner out the Dean, and caught them illegally. I hate saying because in those days it was what was called girling. It's on a pole, and on the end of the pole is like a copper wire. And if you chase fish long enough, you can poke them out with stones, they settle in the middle, and you could get your copper wire over and pull it out. Okay. And we had many a dinner. Now the best fish were in the big Dean, but he wasn't allowed to go there, but he did. You can, but I can always remember when we went into the big Dean, we was told to shh, be quiet. I can always remember that. Yeah, but in case somebody heard, yeah. But no, but I can't remember not playing in the Dean. And I've always been there. I was born at Woodside Cottage. I'm probably the last person ever to be born there. And then we moved into Denholm not long after I was born, I must admit, about 6 months. And I've been in that house ever since. Yeah. At this moment in time, I'm actually, I'm not the oldest person in Denholm, but I'm the oldest person in the same house. And there's nobody been in the house longer than in the village. I mean, he was never out the Dean again, especially in the summer holidays. Obviously, school time he wasn't in the Dean, he'd just be in it weekends and that. But in those days we all played up the Dean, and just making garn hats and the trees down there where we had a rope across it, and we used to swing across the burn, and that was there for years and years and years. The only downside to the Dean was the Highland cattle. They had Highland cattle in the Dean, and they controlled the top side of the Dean. And well, you didn't go there then. They used to stand and look at you. You was never sure. I mean, but no, the Highland cattle was the downside. So we just played the burn, right from the beginning. The top of the Dean. And in those days in the Dean, there were no exit up at the top. There was nothing. You know the top bit where there's the Honeyburn, there's a gate. That wasn't there then. And on the other side, out to Woodside, that wasn't there either. That was just a wood. So this is the funny bit. The gate, the entrance to the Dean at Denholm side, everybody religiously keeps it closed and everything. You had to in those days because the animals in the Dean, but it's still, they still do it, but then at the end you can just get out, so there's no need of that gate at all. And it was quite funny during the COVID period, I'd have just taken the gate off, but everybody still religiously sprayed it, and it was funny. They sprayed it and wiped it. Just leave the thing open. But however, I never can remember boys and girls playing together. And we just played with your people around the same age as you. There, and then, as I say, my brothers, they used to take me. I can remember that. So I've always been in the Dean. I can't remember really swimming there, but it was in the water, but you're bound to notice the Dean's not very deep. Although there are one or two pools gone that used to be there. That one especially, where the bench at the bottom, when you look down there, that used to be a big pool at one time. And I can remember it was deep, but it's only a little bit, you wouldn't be able to swim again. Although we went and we had our duckers on, and again we played in the Dean, that now is again for that bench, is behind the bench, that steep banking. That was a lovely banking at one time, it was all grass. And that's where we rolled the rooster eggs. Again, we went there to, that's where we used to go and roll the rooster eggs. And that was a family picnic. And that's kind of spoiled now when they put the trees up. And that was a nice grassy banking at one time. I mean, it was all wildflowers at one time. It was like meadows at one time. And that was nice. I go through the Dean every week. Every single week I'll have a walk through the Dean. Well, it's completely different from when I was a youngster. And I'm not saying for the worse or anything, it's just time moves on. Nothing's the same as when he was a child, is it? If I had one wish, I wish it would be made into an organised place, to be kept around.
I'm Sandy Milligan. I was born in Denholm, in the house to the right of the school, towards the end of the war in 1944. In those days there were no smartphones or TV, so we had to create our own adventures and fun. After school hours we had so many options around the village. Apart from Denholm Dean, we had great fun down by the Teviot, and of course the village green was on our doorstep. The Dean, however, was always my go-to place. It seemed to be magical. The burn provided scope for fishing and the opportunities to create small pools to encourage various sizes of fish to gather. In those days, early 50s, there seemed to be loads of fish. We would girdle fish, hiding under pool ledges, tickle them and pull them out by hand. I remember fishing with a stick and a copper wire noose to the end of the stick, and this was called girning. This type of fishing I learned from a friend who lived at Honeyburn. He seemed to be so knowledgeable about outdoor crafts. Sadly, nowadays you could walk up the full length of the Dean Burn and see very few fish of any size, which is a shame really. Apart from fishing, the Dean provided many opportunities to create our own fun, and I remember making bows and arrows from the various hazel and willow trees for cowboys and Indian adventures. And there were so many super trees suitable for climbing. There seemed to be lots of wild rasps, I remember, particularly in the Big Dean. We picked them for our mothers to make jam, and they seemed to have their own distinct flavour, which I've never forgotten. And there seemed to be lots of wild flowers as well, particularly primroses. As we got older in the mid-50s, we spent more time in the Big Dean, which provided many more options. There are at least 4 bridges that led up to what was the famous tea room. And over the years, all these bridges have washed away by various storms. The tea rooms were apparently very popular with people from Denham and from Hawick. In those days, both deans were well cared for. It's now very difficult to trace the paths used, apart from the high path on the Honeyburn site, which is used regularly these days. There used to be, I remember, a disused hut in the lower part of the Wee Dean, which apparently belonged to the Denham Small Bore Rifle Club, but that was a long before my time. The only place on the burn suitable for swimming was just above the tea room, called the Clyde's Pool, which was the largest pool in the Dean. In recent years, when I'm able, I love to visit the Big Dean, to chill out and enjoy the peace and quiet, along with the abundance of wildlife, and to get a glimpse of the wild deer that live there, and occasionally the odd red squirrel. The people of Denham really are so fortunate to have this magical place on their doorstep, and trust it will give them the amazing pleasure that I've had during my lifetime.
So I think I'd probably be about 10 or 11 by the time I got to go on my own, because younger times I'd have to rely on my parents to take me because I wasn't allowed to cross the main road in the village. So maybe 1977-ish on my own. Well, I lived at the garage in Denham, T.B. Oliver's garage, or View Hill's the name of the house. So we were at, it did mean crossing the road all the time. Anytime we could get there, we loved playing in the Dean. And obviously back then I don't recall getting many warnings about river and or stream or burn, Dean burn. So we just went up there whenever after we were allowed to cross the road, we just went up there whenever we could and just made our own fun and met in with whoever there. Because back then you just met up with whoever was there. It wasn't an organised event, but there was always people around. So Marjorie Allen, who's also given me a little bit of input what she remembered, she lives up in Fife now, but her and I she lived opposite me in the Grove, opposite the garage. We would get together and we would go ourselves away up to the Dean, and we'd maybe meet in with Roddy Clark, who we call as Spud, Gary Cross, who we now call Stinky, Hunter Kirkpatrick would come over, so he lived in the big house just outside Denham on the left hand side. Hunter lived in that big house there, so he would just walk across the thing and jump the gate and come into the Dean. So he would see us and then he would join in. So Grant Harris, just everyone would come. And when you're asking me now, I'm thinking about how did we all know we were going, but it was just a thing. We all went and played. We did a lot of building dams. That was a big thing. We built a lot of dams, and then that would make the pools bigger. If it was summer, we would be making the pools bigger. We did a lot of gang huts. A lot of gang huts went on, just maybe trees that fell over, we would use the branches and things like that. Paddling, always. Baggy nets, always. Underneath you'll notice in the Dean, there's like bits underneath the trees in the stream where you could go in there and find fish or whatever you were looking for. Probably climbing trees would be my favourite pastime. Always climbing trees. And if anybody's noticed, when you go in the Dean from the little path from Denham, if you keep following the path, you'll see a big tree and it might have Wendy written on it. And I've written beside this, ashamed. So, yeah, it was. I'm ashamed that my name's on that tree. Stepping stones, we made a lot of stepping stones because the bridges weren't there. Not as many bridges were there when we were young, anyway. Yeah, it was such a playground, but natural playground. And then we all made our own fun, and whether it was, we all agreed, what we'll do today, we'll get a gang hut, or whatever, and it was such great fun, and all ages, although these people I've just mentioned were our age, but there was older boys and girls went as well, you know, it wasn't just our school year, if you like. Well, what we always thought was, I don't know that anybody ever came looking for us, but we just liked to get over the first bridge, and then after that we felt that we were away, you know, we were in our own, we had our own places. So we just there wasn't favourite places, we just kept on exploring all the way around, and if we found a tree that came over or whatever, we would use that place that time, you know, but we never had it wasn't a place we went to every time, we just explored always and everywhere. I said earlier that I never went into the Dean and came out the same way. I could get lost anywhere, and I was in there not long ago and I did the same. I've got no clue, and even now there's paths. When we were going there was no paths. There was initial path down for the village, but there was not paths. You just went through the nettles and the bushes and whatever else, or I don't remember there being paths. So it was always an exploration whenever we ended up. Don't know how we ever found each other. I don't really remember much about, I remember in my mind's eye there was no real proper paths, but there was, obviously there'd be tramped down where it would been before, or where people walked their dogs or whatever, but I don't remember like flowers or that wouldn't have been really my thing then when they were little. We just wanted to ramp about and climb trees and make gang huts. I remember it being very wild, you know, very just foresty, not kept, and what they've done now is amazing, but back then I think it was just wild, not anything particularly apart from the odd bridge. I think I used to see it, and the odd deer now and again, but Mr. Oddie, I think I remember him, we weren't allowed up past a part of the Dean, and I remember we were always scared of Mr. Oddie, but not that because he did anything, we're just scared of Mr. Oddie, and I think maybe it might have been our parents' way of saying there's a limit to where you're going to go, don't go up past. I think there was an old fence or something that we used to go to and think, well, better not go past that because I don't think we're allowed, but that might have just been a scare factor, I don't know. But I don't remember much about the flowers. Marjorie does say she remembers nettle stings and thistles and very wet feet. Clearly the main differences that I see is the work that's been done, the bridges that have been put in even before the Denholm Dean project, but the putting in the bridges over the river was, or the burn was quite a big thing, because it meant in flood time you could get over without your wellies getting filled up. But obviously latterly the amazing work that the village has done in putting in the benches and the replanting, taking out all the sick can, it's just phenomenal, and I feel that, you know, it's such a good place people can use now. Marjorie, my friend I keep referring to, who's also helped me out with some of the things, she says she's never been for a while, so we'll be going. But I go quite regularly and have a wee look, but we didn't get time to come and help, but we'll try and make an effort. But I think the things for the children and the wee stool or the wee trunks to sit on and things, it's just amazing. So I think they've done a great job, and I think we've made the bit, like we're making a right good place for the village. If I had one wish for the Dean, I would like it to continue to be looked after, and people to feel comfortable using it like they do the greens. You know, I would like it to be a place that is as busy or as used as everywhere else in the middle of the village, and I think that hopefully the nice people that are doing all this can keep on top of it, and obviously youngsters coming through can also manage to join in and see the benefits of it. Dave and I went for a walk down to Cove, and they've done a lot of work down there, and they've got QR codes on posters, and I donated money to keep it up, and I just did. I mean, I know it's a technical thing, but the QR code idea, because I think a lot of people would want to donate if they see how lovely it is. When people come to the garage, they bring their cars, and I send them up there with their dogs and things, you know, for a wee look. So I think it might be an idea. But anyway, I think if we can keep it going and people use it, I think that would be a great gift from people of the village, to let them use it and enjoy it.